This is Gemara Pesachim Daf Chavav. Today's daf is sponsored as a Schus Ilin Nishmasa for Bernice Bas Shmuel and Neshama Shav and Aliyah, whose yard site is actually today, the date of recording this daf on the 1st of Teves, although Daf Chavav is going to be for tomorrow, the 2nd of Teves. All the learning for the Chedesh of Elul as well is sponsored as a Schus Ilin Nishmasa for Leah Rasha Bas Arya Leib, as well as Schus Ilin Nishmasa for Arya Leib Ben Yaakov. The Neshama is Shaol and Aliyah, the Schus for all the learning, Shvilin Nishmasa for all their Neshamas. Of course, all the Chelim Shav Refuah Shleimah, Chaim Minchas Ben Malki, many of the Chaim Mitzar, some even Israel Sarah was connected to Asim Chai Sarah Chaim Sarah as he was in Mindel, and there's a finish revelation of Navi Shafi Khanaf Adam need to read the name of Khanarizo. Yisachim Nividas De Baruch was Tavia Musa, Machis Ram and Chvil Yuvam Siv Mash Esther, Pesachim Chali Israel as well as Chosiv Ragdalea Bas Ita. I'm sure many people have realized it's been slight anytime issues. The Shurim have been going up a little bit later than usual. If you have been bothered by those issues, then feel free to reach out and we can send the share to you directly, or it's on YouTube and on all the podcast platforms. You could find it there. As well, the last announcement is that the 4-minute daf review, Baruch Hashem, has received. Many people are enjoying it. If you'd like to reach out, send a WhatsApp message to the number on your screen, or again, it's on the YouTube enter anytime. Mirz Hashem, we should all be able to get a bit more clarity in the daf. Let's pick it up from the bottom of Chafayim and Beis. Got cut off a little bit at the end of this yesterday. So let's pick it up from 8 lines to the bottom of the Igad Yamri, middle of the discussion, but Hana that comes to a person, Bal Karchai. As we started yesterday, we had one Lashon. Today we're going to have a second Lashon, and then primarily the bulk of today's daf is going to be proving back and forth this Machlekes and Baye Rava. Perhaps we'll end up with a refutation of one of the opinions of Rava, and then we're going to go into more cases back into the Mishnah of fueling items with Isura Anah. So let's begin. Says the Gemara, Igad Yamri, 7 lines from the bottom. Efsher v'loy mechavin. Again, we're discussing Hana that you get Bal Karche. The case that we spoke about was you're in the mall and you walk by a Cinnabon, and you that beautiful smell of that chametz. Is that allowed? Chametz, as we know, Isra Anah. So what is the story with that? Yesterday we had the first Lashon, 4 different cases of Machlekes Abai and Rav at the end. Igad Yamri we have similarly. Efsher v'loy mechavein hainu bloktat Rav Yehuda Rav Shimon. That's slightly different than the first lashon. In this case, you say if it's Efsher, you didn't have to be there. You didn't have to walk by that area. V'loy mechavein, and you don't have intent. You just walk by and boom, the smell of that cinnamon shoots into your nose. Hainu bloktat Rav Yehuda Rav Shimon. That is the Machlekes. Rav Yehuda says it's also. Rav Shimon says it's mutter. What's the next case? Loy Efsher v'loy mechavein. That doesn't change. Kliyam of loy pligi deshari. If you don't have any intent and you have nothing to do, that everyone agrees is going to be mutter. What's a machlekes? Keep leads loy efsher v'kom echavin. You had no choice for whatever reason, but kom echavin. You have intent. Wow, that's a beautiful smell. Wow, I can't wait for that smell of that cinnamon. And you take a big inhale, v'kom echavin. V'alibah to Rav Shimon. According to Rav Shimon, dazel basir kavana. They will go after your kavana kuliyam loy pligi daser. Rav Shimon, who normally holds it's going to come at ironic. Normally, Rav Shimon holds davar shein miskavein is mutter. That means he goes after your kavana. Over here, it was miskavein. You had intent. Let's highlight those words. That what's the machlekes? The loy afsher v'kom echavin over here. Sorry, it's not highlighting. Okay, loy afsher v'kom echavin. So according to Rav Shimon, everyone agrees it's aser. Keep li. What's the machlekes? Alibah to Rav Yehuda. Again, this is going to be a bit backwards to what we're used to. The Amar Rav Yehuda holds loy shna miskavein v'loy shna eina miskavein. Generally, Rav Yehuda holds there's no difference. That's the whole chiddush of Rav Yehuda. The davar shein miskavein is going to be aser. Efsher, generally when it's Efsher, it's going to be forbidden. Aser, Abaye Karab Yehuda. Now let's not get confused. Let's let Rashi walk us through so we don't make this mistake. When we say Abaye Karab Yehuda, what does that mean? That means Abaye holds like Rav Yehuda, that it's mutter. Rav Yehuda normally holds Aser. Here comes out mutter. Look at Rashi. Last Rashi in Amud says, Abaye Karab Yehuda, that what? The Kasavar Kim Aser Rav Yehuda, but the Efsher. Normally, when you have a choice, it says forbidden. Why? Rav Yehuda does not care about kavana. It's up to, is it possible for you to avoid this or not? That's when Rav Yehuda is going to say it's forbidden, when you could have avoided. Hilkach, in our case, says Abaye a massive chiddush. You had no choice. Rav Yehuda is not going to care, and therefore this case is going to come in ironic. Rav Yehuda is going to hold its mutter, says Abaye. So again, the Abaye and Rava are not changing as we flip along to Chavav and Aleph. The Abaye and Rava are not changing. What's changing is how they're holding that. So Abaye holding its mutter. But Rava Amar Lecha, no, I can't become Rav Yehuda. Shei miskaven ki miskaven. Whoever you normally holds that not having kavanah is like having kavanah, that's why it's forbidden. And basically, the machlekes that Abaye and Rav according to this lashon is, what is the ikar dagish? Where is the syllable on? Is it on the kavanah aspect or is it on the impossibility aspect? Says Rava el lachomra. Rav Yehuda generally says it's in lachomra. Avu miskaving shem miskaving lekula. Rav Yehuda is not going to say that in. Says Rava, it's going to be forbidden according to Rav Yehuda. So that is the machlekes Abaye and Rava. And now we're going to try to prove each opinion. Abaye and Rava are going to say where they know their dinim from. Then we're going to be multiple proofs back and forth to each opinion. Now, again, Abaye is the Mekel. He says it is mutter. Again, the case that we are talking about is loy efsher. You had no choice, but kamachavin, you had intent. Says Abaye it is mutter. Says Rava it is aser. Amar Abaye, 3 lines on the top. Chavav and Aleph. Mana amin Allah. How do I know it is mutter? Says Abaye. The time we went to the Raisa. Amra love of Yechman and Zakai. He was sitting in the shade of the Eichel. The Eichel was tremendous wall, so he was sitting in the shade of the Eichel outside of the Beis HaMikdash. V'dairish kalei and kulei, and he would darshan the entire day. Rashi says this was before the Yom Tovim. They used to darshan all the halachos. And what's the problem? Over here, they would get benefit because the Eichel, the walls would give him shade, and they would all enjoy the shade of the walls of the Eichel during this year. V'halacha says the Gemara, Delay Efsher. It's impossible. They had to have the share, of course. Like Rashi says, it's impossible because you have to darshan to everyone that halachos. Umechavin, but they have kavanah cause they're enjoying it. Vishari and yet is mutter. Says Abaye, prove to me. And this case was what? Lo yafshir was impossible, but they had intent and it's mutter. For Rava Amar, what's Rava going to answer? Shiny Eichel, the case of the Eichel is different. Why? The Eichel was only made for the inside, and therefore you're getting the hana, you're getting benefit for the outside of the Eichel walls. That's called the hana in abnormal fashion, says Rava, therefore that's the reason why it's permitted. But it's not necessarily going to be a raya to a regular case where you're getting hana in the normal fashion. That's Abaye's proof. Comes along Rava Amar Rava Menam Minallah. Where do I know this? Says Rava Tani learned to the Brisa. Lulin Shaya Pesuchen Baaliyas Beis Kachi Kachim. There were skylights in the roof of the Kodesh HaKodashim. And Shabehen Mishalshon Esuman, they were lower down. They were lower them down on ropes. The craftsmen, Betevos in boxes, Kadesh Yazainu Aleim Beis Kachi Kodashim. They had to do repairs in the Kachi Kodashim. So what would they do? First of all, one issue is you can't walk through the regular door. Second of all, is you don't want to get benefit from all the walls. So they would lower them down through the ceiling, inside a box, a 3-walled box, 2 sides and the back. Of course, the front had to be open so they could do whatever work and whatever repair they needed to do. So why do they do this as the Raisa? So they don't get benefit. Their eyes don't feast on the Kachi Kodashim. So what do we see, says Rava? In this case, this case is loy efsher. They had to do the repairs and the Beis HaMikdash, and they're enjoying the benefit, and yet v'aser, and it's forbidden. Says Rava, this is a proof to my opinion that lo yafsher v'kamachavin is forbidden. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Tizra, is this logical? You cannot transgress, you cannot deconsecrate, you cannot be over on using the Beis HaMikdash for a mundane purpose. If it's via the sound, via the sight, and via the smell, those aren't at some level real tangible on us, so it can't be Me'ilah. So how are you telling me that the reason they lower them in the 3-sided boxes, so they don't get Me'ilah, they don't use the Beis Kachim, they don't use the Beis HaMikdash? What do you mean? There should be no issue. Says the Gemara, Ela Maila also be Beis Kachi Kodashim. It was a Maila. It was a Maila that they made these 3-walled boxes to lower them in, but it wasn't because of a potential Isser, and therefore the Raya of Rava falls off. That is the first lashon how Rava tried to bring a proof. The second lashon Amar Rava. How do I know that it's forbidden by lo yafshu when you have no choice to come a chavim? The Tanya Amar Shimon Bazi. Amar Shimon Leim Shamar Gabara. He brings a raya for that statement that there's no din me'ilah. So now Rava is medayik. Me'ilah u'delaka. There's no full-blown me'ilah that you called using the Beis HaMikdash for a mundane purpose. Ha'isura, but are you over an isser? Ha'isura is ha'ika. There is an isser. Says Rava, that's my proof that you're going to be over by loy efsher v'kam achavin. It's impossible beyond intent. Says the Gemara, my lav lo yisraim the bifnim. What's the case? Those inside the Beis HaMikdash, they could do become a chavin v'aser. Says Rava, that's my proof to me. Says Gemara, no, it's those who are standing outside, and therefore it was efsher, and therefore it's not our case. They didn't have to get benefit, therefore it's not a proof to our case. So now the Gemara digresses for a moment. We have this machlekes Abai and Rava, each try to bring a proof to his opinion, Abai to be mutter, Rava to be aser. Says the Gemara, Gufa. Let's go into that last statement we just made. Amar Shimon Bazim Shimon Levi Mishum Kapara. Kol umare v'reach emim shamila. The sound, sight, and smell, there's no me'ilah. There's no way, that's not called using the Beis HaMikdash, holiness improperly. Says the Gemara, V'reach ein boi misham me'ilah? Is that true? There's no me'ilah on reach, on smell? V'atani learned to the Raisa, Hamefatim is like ketayris if someone compounds, if someone gets the ingredients of the ketayris and makes them l'islamid ba, either to teach someone how to make the ketayris, oila masr l'tzibor, or he makes it to give it over to the tzibor, potter. What's halacha? It's potter. He wasn't iver. L'hariach ba, but if he made it to smell the wonderful smell of the ketayris, chayif, then you are forbidden. V'hame riach ba, potter el shemal, and if you did it, then what? If you made it la riach ba you're chayiv. V'hami riach ba, someone who actually goes and smells it. What's the halacha? Potter el shamal, but he's over. It's called using kachim improperly. So how did you just tell me that you can never use smell, sight, or hear kachim, and that's called me'ilah? We see clear in the Brisa not that way. Just kol umara, the sound and the sight, but not the smell. While if he she'ein b'hem mamish, there's no mamash, there's no tangibility to sight, to sound. However, v'reach, but when it comes to smell, then after the smoke goes up, ein b'hem shamila, then there's no longer me'ilah. Because the mitzvah was done. So the Gemara is changing a bit, and the Gemara is saying that the reason why there is no me'ilah by the smell is not necessarily because it's not tangible, because it is tangible at some level. There is that scent, there is that smoke. Rather, the Gemara is saying, the reason is because you did a mitzvah with it. Once the mitzvah was done, that is the reason why there's going to be no issue. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Again, we're in the middle of a tangent over here. We digress slightly from our Iker discussion of Abai and Rava, of Lo Yevshur, was like, is it possible you had a tent? We're in the middle of a sidebar din over here trying to figure out, is there me'ilah by sight, smell, and vision, and hearing, The Gemara now is concluding that yes, by smell, yes, by sight, and by hearing, but not by smell. Because why? Smell has no tangibility. Then says Gemara, it does. Answers the Gemara, the reason is because you did a mitzvah with the ketairis. Says Gemara, 1 second, is that to say, once you're done a mitzvah, you can't be over me'ilah on that item? What do you mean? The cleaning away the ashes from the mizbeach, a mitzvah was done, and yet we know this me'ilah, meaning you can't use those ashes for a mundane purpose. The Torah tells us 5 lines from the white lines, and you should put the ashes next to the mizbeach. That you should not spread them out. And you should place them. You should not get any benefit. So I'm sorry, so you shouldn't have any benefit. So ask the Gemara, seemingly a mitzvah was done with the Chumas Hadeshin, and yet we see there is an issue of me'ilah. You're not allowed to use it for anything else. Answers the Gemara, no. So you cannot learn now from Chumas Hadeshin and Big Day Kuna. That's going to break the rule, because Shnei Ksuvim, 2 abnormal cases where the Torah wrote explicitly, Ein Melamdin, we don't learn from them. Says the Gemara, Chumas Hadeshin, Adamar, like we just said a moment ago, from the pasuk of V'samei Yitzam Mizbeach. Next, Big Day Kuna. What's the pasuk of Big Day Kuna? The Torah teaches us, V'nichem Sham. And the Kohen Gadol is going to place the Big Day Kuna there, Melamed, Shatunin and Geniza, that the Big Day Kuna has to be buried. And meaning that you're not going to use it anymore. Says the Gemara, okay, I'm sorry. The Rabbanon darshan the pasuk to teach me they got to bury the Big Day Kahuna. El Rav Daisa, the Poligale, the Amar, Avarui, and then the Kohen Hadid, he argued, says Rav Daisa. Says Rav Daisa, you could use the Big Day Kahuna after you do the mitzvah. What's going on over here? Breaks the rules. You can give it to the Kohen Hadid, what does the Torah mean? They have to place it sham. there. So you don't use it for Yom Kippur again. But you could use the big day kuna. Says the Gemara, Michael and Meimar. Says the Gemara, you're right. Different case. Should maybe Chuvas Adeshin the Egla Arufa, not Chuvas Adeshin and big day kuna. Chuvas Adeshin Egla Arufa. Those two cases take Suv Mein Keachad. Choshek Suv Mein Keachad. Ein Malam. You're not going to learn out from them. So as we always find in these type of Gemara, says the Gemara, Ha Nichlaman Damar. Ha Nichlaman Damar. That's good according to the opinion that holds Ein Malam. When you have two psukim, you don't learn from them. El Laman Damar Malam. Then Michael and Meimar. What are you going to say? Says the Gemara. Trei mi'iti ksivi. There were two exclusions written. Ksiv is samoy, ksiv ha'arufa. So these two cases are going to be different, and you're not able to learn out for these cases. Even according to Mandam, you generally yes learn out, here not because there are exclusions. So Gemara now tied up the loose ends regarding getting hana, mi'ila, from sight, from smell, from sound. And now says the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom, Tashima. Back to our original discussion, Machlekes, Abaye and Rava. Abaye, lo yefsher, it's impossible, but become a chavin. You had intent, says Abaye, it's mutter. Rava, it's impossible, you had intent, it's aser. Tashima, let's begin the rayas. First attempt at a raya to Rava. Says the Gemara, Hechnisa l'revka v'dasha. You enter the para aduma into the corral with a bunch of other animals, 4 to be precise. Vidosha and the cow threshes. Kshira, the cow is still kosher. We know you can't do work with it, but you just put it into the corral and then it threshed on its own. It's kosher. Bishvil shetinaik. But let's say you took the para aduma and you put it into that corral. Why? So it can nurse. Vitidosh, and so that it could thresh. Psula, then it's possible. Says the Gemara, one second. What's going on? It's lo yefsher. The cow has to nurse, so to put it in for that purpose, that's lo yefsher. But then you went and you had intent that what? You wanted it to nurse, and you wanted to thresh, and what do we see? The Ketani Psula. Says Rava, right to me. Lo yefsher. It's impossible because the cow is to nurse. And you have intent for it to do work. A part of Duma is not allowed to do work, and we see it's aser. See, it's possible. Answers the Gemara in the last line. Shani Yasam Dechsev Ashar Loi Ubad Ba. Mikol Makaim. You can't work with it in any fashion. Says the Gemara, Nami. So in the first case, where you just put it into the corral and it works on its own, even in that case, it should be forbidden. If we have a special exeris like us of teaching me, Loi Ubad Ba, you're not allowed to work with it, then in any case, it should be forbidden. Moving along to Chavav and Mei, says the Gemara, Haloi Damya Ella Laha. Says the Gemara, no, it's comparable to different case by the Paraduma. Shachin allow oif. If a bird flies and rests on the paraduma, share the cow still kosher. Allah zacher, but if you mate the paraduma, psula, it's possible. My timer says Gemara Amar Papa. Ikasiv avad v'karinan avad ad avid ba. Until you did a ma'isa b'yadayim, you went and you mated the paraduma. It's going to be forbidden. Ikasiv ubad v'karinan ubad, meaning it happened on its own, that it did work on its own. Afil memelanami, like the case of the bird that lands on the paraduma. The paraduma is de facto doing work. It's carrying the bird. Hashachsev avad v'karinan ubad. We read it with extra avad. Uvad dumya de avad. Ma avad de nichale av uvad de nichle. And that's going to be the general rule by the paraduma. To be a special exeris like us, that it's going to be dependent upon your das. Are you happy or not? If you're happy, then it's going to be forbidden. If not, then it's going to be mutter. But therefore, we're not necessarily going to be able to bring a raya from the case of paraduma. Says the Gemara, let's continue. Tashima, let's try to bring another raya to Ravam. Again, lo yafshur, when it's impossible and you have intent, it's aser. Aveda, you find the lost object, lo yishtachenu, you're not allowed to spread it out. Lo yagabi mita, lo yagabi magud. Not in your bed and not to have a peg. Litzar choy, for your purposes. Aval, meaning you want to spread this out blankets using, you're not allowed to. Aval shadcha litzar choy. You let it spread it out for its purpose, and you get moldy, it's going to get ichi. You want to spread it out for its own purposes. That's going to be mutter. Now the guests come to your house. Then you're not allowed to spread it out anymore. Bein litzarcha. So what's the raya? We see even though it's litzarcha, it's for the item's usage. It's lo yefsher, meaning it's impossible. The item needs this usage. But for kamachavin, you're getting benefit. You're enjoying the fact you have this beautiful tapestry, and yet we see that it's going to be aser, a raya to Rava. Says the Gemara, no raya shiny asam the kali law that if you spread it out when there are guests in your house, you're effectively destroying that Aveda. Why are you destroying it? Either Im Yishamein Abisha, Ayin Hara, Im Yisham Ganave, because the people are going to say, that's a beautiful bapistry, I'm going to come steal it from you, so therefore it's not necessarily a raya to our case. Tashema, now the Gemara quickly switches gears, and the Gemara now brings a proof against the original Rava. Remember, we had a first Lashon, which we didn't really discuss today, and that first Lashon, Rava said the Rav Shimon only holds davar she'in miskavin is mutter when it's loy efsher. But in the first lashon, we said the machlokes is when it's efsher, you could have avoided v'loy kamachavin, and you did not have intent. And in that case, Rava said it's forbidden. Again, loy efsher, it was impossible. But what you had, Again, one more time. Let me say it correctly. The first time you're saying the machlokes, it was possible. It was efsher. V'loy mechavin, you did not have intent. Yet Rava says it's aser. Tashema moichrek sos. Moichrek darka, you sell clothing, you let it wear it the normal way. Again, this is a klayim issue. So when you're shatnez issue, when you're wearing it, you can't have intention. You're doing it to save you from the sun or from the heat. Or save you from the rain. But the meticulous ones, mafshin lachreim b'makal, they would throw it over the shoulder with a stick. They wouldn't wear it bechlal. What's going on over here? De'efsher, it's possible, meaning in the first case we said if you're wearing it, then just don't have kavana for the rain. So we said, so that means but it's possible to not wear it bechlal. Why? Lemevik it's doing. To like the meticulous ones that throw it over your shoulder. And yet, what do we see? When you do not have intent, as long as you're not intending to save yourself from the heat, you're not intending to save yourself from the rain, shari, it's mutter. Tiyofta l'mandamasni lishna kama de Rava tiyofta. So the first lashon of Rava is destroyed. So only left with the second lashon, machlokes Rava and Abaya. Let's finish up today's daf. Lo yasik bo. We go back to the Mishnah. We said in the Mishnah that isura anah chametz you're not allowed to use to fuel the fire. Let's just begin. The Gemara Tanarabon and Tanashesku beklibe arla. You fuel a fire with item that is forbidden, with the shells of arla, or bekashel klai karim, or with the husks of klai karim, which is forbidden. Chadash, if the oven is new, and then what happens by firing up the oven? It solidifies that clay oven. It gets a real benefit. Yutat, you don't have to break the oven. The oven accepted a real benefit from the davar iser. You have to break it. Yoshein, if it's an old oven, yutzan. Now it didn't really benefit, just benefit that it's hot now. So yutzan, let the oven cool down. Let's say you bake bread in the oven while it was being fueled from these forbidden items. Rabbi Yomer, habas asura. The bread is forbidden. Why? Because the bread is considered like it absorbs some of this iser. Chamayim rabas mutaris. Last case is bishlan kabigachol. If you cooked the item on coals, divrei kol mutar. Says the Gemara, Vatani b'lem tenabraisa, beichadish bin yashan, yutzan. Whether it was a new or old oven, you have to let it cool down. And we didn't say anything about breaking it. Says the Gemara, like kasha, harebi, harabanan. Which we think right now, Rashi explains, Rebbe, it's back in the middle of the narrow sized lines. Rashi says the Katani chadash yutzas Rebbe, that what Amar Apasa surah. Why? Misham the gum rub iser. Rebbe holds it's aser because the bread accepted the iser v'uad in the tanner chadash, just like we saw by the new tanner. Whereas the rabbanon are going to hold its mutter. Says the Gemara, Eimad the Sham say the Rebbe Misham the shevach. When did Rebbe say his din? When there's a benefit of the wood inside the bread at some level absorbed that heat. But in the case of the oven was fueled by the original fire and by this fire. So is Rebbe going to agree that case you have to break the oven? Of course not. And then the Gemara now is going to begin a lengthy discussion figuring out which Rav Elazar, hey Rav